All right. Today I will talk about special delivery software. This is a category of things that Apple sold for a while. I'm not sure that everybody knows about it, so that's the point of talking about it. This is what the logo looks like for the special delivery software. So the setup for this is, I guess, basically, if you think back to the days of 1980, most of the software that we know about for the Apple II today hadn't been written. There's, a bunch of people that liked VisiCalc. Not everybody likes VisiCalc. There's other stuff that people might want to do. Apple developed and published some of its own software, and a lot of that was under the name Apple Software Bank. And I'm not actually sure what the boundaries of that were, but clearly Apple wanted to expand its offerings, and so one thing that they did for that was to sort of solicit community developers, third-party software. So that's what special delivery software is. I'm going to spend a little bit of time looking at sort of catalogs that predate special delivery software, and then I'll move on to the SDS stuff. So this is a little early on. They had these Apple in Depth and Apple at a Glance sort of catalogs. So Apple at a Glance was the sort of like summary survey thing, and so this one, I don't think this one is dated, but I believe it's 1980. Like, I couldn't find a date on it though. But this one has some of those Apple titles in it that they released before. Before SDS came out. So I've got some pictures too of like what these things look like. So this is a page that has on it the controller, the cashier, and Apple Writer, and in the upper left corner is a picture of like what the Apple Writer package looked like. So it was, there's a little folder that contains the disks. There's 2 disks, and then there's the manual. This one is interesting because I actually was able to unwrap it. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I had a couple of these that were still wrapped originally. So I was able to see like what order things came in and stuff like that. And Apple Stellar Invaders is a game that they released. They released a couple of games early on. That's one of them. Apple Adventure is the other one. But so here's some further things from that same Apple at a Glance catalog. Apple Plot, Apple Posts, the Dow Jones Series Portfolio Evaluator, Shell Games. So, and I have, for things that I have photos of, I've stuck them on the side just because it's sort of an interesting little visual aid to see what these things actually look like. One thing that's kind of nice about this, these are tiny on the Zoom screen, but the photographs that you have from the day are often, not as good as photographs that you can get from now. The downside is that the current things are like more beat up, but the resolution is higher and the colors are better and stuff. Though there is actually one thing I really kind of like about looking at these old catalogs is these photos, like on the cover of this one, and I've got a couple more, sort of sprinkled in here from like, the beginnings of sections or whatever, where they've laid out all of the software and stuff. It's quite nice looking. But so this is the New Products 1980 catalog that has, some of those same things. It's got, Tax Planner and the Adventure, Apple Music Theory. This is a collaboration with Mech, so this is Apple Music Theory, Music Fundamentals from Mech. And all of these things have the sort of like standard looking Apple manuals. And it's kind of neat. If you hadn't come across these before, it's kind of neat to see these, clearly Apple manuals, but about, like with pictures on them that you hadn't seen before. There's Apple Adventure. Anyway, okay, so these are the things that predated special delivery software. This is the spring summer 1980 Apple in Depth catalog. So this one has all those same things, but with usually quite a bit more description. And one of the things that I wanted to point out about this was really only just this part of the table of contents, which is that they've categorized all of their software into business, education, science, industrial, and personal and entertainment. So B series, E series, SI series, and PE series. And I note that just basically because that winds up, something much like that winds up in the product identifier for the SDS stuff. Here are some of the pictures that I approve of, of the like laying out the software and the openings of the sections. So you can see, what the controller looks like, and you can see a little pile of Apple software bank folders. Whenever I look at these, I'm always sort of tempted, like to the extent that I have managed to procure the things that are in it, I'm always sort of tempted to recreate these photos. But I kind of have given up on that, partly because I have let things pass on through me. So there are some things that I took photos of and no longer have. In the bottom picture, you can actually see I think it's the printer 2A and the modem 2B. And the modem 2B is a Novation Cat with an Apple branding. That's actually quite rare. And the printer 2A is it's a Centronics something 440, something like that. It's several different computer companies used it and branded it. Apple had their branded version of it. I actually don't think I'm not even sure there's an Apple on it anywhere, but they sold it as in the Apple catalog. The software that's listed here, is basically, it says Apple Potpourri, and it's got Checkbook, Microchess, Stellar Invaders, Apple Trek and Star Wars, the cassette, Breakout, the cassette, and Apple Bowl, the cassette and tape. So these are sort of early software things. Here's the cover of the Apple In-Depth Fall 81, Winter 82, and another section that shows like the software laid out. Anyway, I like looking at these catalogs. If you haven't seen them, it's worth taking a look. But okay, in that most recent one that I put up, though, they actually have a little section which it says for your information, and it's got sort of late breaking news, and also talks about the existence of the special delivery software catalog. Interestingly, now that I'm looking at that picture, it does seem to be the second catalog. Interesting. Anyway, so what it says is, in addition, many excellent software programs are described in another Apple publication, the Special Delivery Software Catalog, published 3 times yearly. This catalog showcases a wide variety of unique programs for many applications, all specially chosen by Apple. And so that's essentially what, that's leading into the topic that I wanted to talk about. This is basically, they solicited programs from the public and handpicked them and delivered them, like marketed them, made them available. So it's sort of, in a way, it's kind of like an early App Store. The late breaking news here was the addition of Apple How To, which I also have a photo of, so I thought I'd put that there too. But they released Apple How To after they'd laid out the catalog, but before they'd laid out this page. So, okay, anyway, here, so the special delivery software catalogs, they didn't last very long, actually. So there are basically 3. The Fall 1980 is the first one, then Spring 1981, then Spring 1982. And in the Spring 1982 one there was sort of like a separate Apple III only one that you could get. And it has all the information in the Apple III only one is all contained in the other one. But it is still a separate object you can get and hold. And then I've put the Apple Software In-Depth Fall Winter 1982 in big purple parentheses because the rationale for that is actually that a lot of the software that was in the special delivery software catalogs made it into the Apple In-Depth Fall Winter 1982 catalog, but at that point no longer under the not specifically under the special delivery software name. I mean, they didn't change anything, but they no longer talk about that as being a thing. So special delivery software basically lived from fall 1980 to spring 1982. Okay, so this is the introduction from the fall 1980 catalog. And, so it's the first page, and it says, talks about people's needs are extremely varied. Developing software to develop all those needs is like more than we can do. So Apple wants to encourage the independent contributions of outside programmers, and so and they want to sort of help people get their programs to market, and so that's what they're doing. They're saying, like, if you've written a cool program, send it to us, and we might put you in the next catalog. Here's the set of programs that we have in our current offering. And the fall 1980 catalog is actually there's not a lot in it, but more were added. Here's the introduction to the second one, the spring 1981. And they say, they talk about how the first one was released in November 1980, so now we have a date on that. Sort of notes of praise for the Personal Finance Manager, which is one of the titles, and Pascal Animation Package and so forth. So, and then here's the introduction to the the third one, which goes on. Continues to say, here's the third edition, outstanding collection of independently written computer programs for the Apple II and now the Apple III. So the Apple III has now joined the pack. Okay. I was searching around a little bit for just contemporary information about, what people thought about this. One thing that came up nearly at the top of the Google search. So I wasn't particularly thorough here, but, the InfoWorld had sort of like an editorial complaint about this, which basically compared it to the Atari Program Exchange. I think they were both sort of happening at about the same time, and they had the same kind of feeling to it. It's basically like the big computer entity whose name began with A would help the programmers of that platform get their programs to market through their channel, right? So Atari had the Atari Program Exchange. Apple had this special delivery software. And the complaint was essentially what this is basically a way for them to put out software they don't have to support. And so the thing ends, with it's up to the consumer to make a stand. But anyway, it kind of died on its own, to be honest. But okay, so I've got here there wasn't a catalog listing for the first, like a kind of like a list of products for the first catalog, but here's the listing of products for the second and the third one. So you can sort of see, it's kind of long on the third one, and it's kind of less long in the second one. What I'm highlighting here is the product number. So the product number always starts with a C, and then it's got a 2 or 3 for Apple II or Apple III. Then it's got a letter, which I am guessing probably correctly is B for business, H for home, E for education, and S for scientific. So they had 4 different series. And then they had a 4-digit product number because they were very optimistic. Never did they need more than 2 of those digits. But okay, so what I have done. Oh yeah, I guess. Well, before I get to that, here's the Apple In-Depth Fall Winter 1982, and the point about this is just that at this point they have just started intermingling the Apple stuff and the special delivery software stuff, and they don't even mention that it's special delivery software. So Elementary, My Dear Apple, and the Shell games are both Apple. They are not special delivery software. Moptown was special delivery software, but it's all just listed together in a page of educational stuff. So at this point, they'd basically given up, I think, on special delivery software. But yeah, they're still selling it, interestingly. So, and in fact, Apple Writer 2 was a special delivery software title, and that did pretty well. So I went through the lists here and just sort of wrote them down in a way that I don't know might be useful. I don't know if you're trying to collect them. So they go from C2E001, which is hand-holding basic, down to C2E0016, which is Instant Zoo, and I want to talk about that a little bit too. Actually, I missed typing CTW on that, but these last 4 were done in conjunction with the Children's Television Workshop and are generally kind of like they've got Bert and Ernie and Muppets and stuff. They were never in a special delivery software catalog, but by virtue of the numbering, their product numbering, I am classifying them as part of the same group. So those last 4 appeared in that the most recent catalog that I didn't really classify as a special delivery catalog, the Apple In-Depth catalog. On the left here, I've sort of like put the catalog that it appeared in. So the first 5 actually it is, were in the first catalog, the fall 1980 catalog, and then the next 2, Bridge Tutor, and the 2 different versions appeared in the second one, and so forth. So that's why the catalogs are there on the left. The home ones included the games and Personal Finance Manager. Everybody bought that. I've gotten many copies of that just incidentally when I get collections of other things. There's just everybody had that. That and Agenda Files. For some reason, everybody liked those. Okay, one thing that's interesting about the home numbers here is that I don't know what H008 is. It's not in any catalog. I don't know. If anybody knows, I think it would be interesting to find out. I guess it must have just been skipped. The last one, 10, The Wreck of the BSM Pandora, I wanted to talk a little bit about at the end, but that was basically the last one in the home series. It was a game that they released, and it wasn't out there very long. Not many sold, and so it was hard to get. Okay, the business category had programming tools like animation tools for Pascal and Pilot. I guess the Pilot one was in the education category, though. A VT100 emulator, some sorting and database tools, VisiCalc real estate templates. That was exciting. Some of these, one of the reasons that it's kind of hard to find these things is that they're very niche. That was kind of the point. These are handling small things that Apple couldn't devote resources to developing for, but there's at least some audience for. But at the same time, the audience isn't very big, so there probably aren't that many VisiCalc real estate template copies out there. So it takes a while to get a hold of one. The last category, the scientific ones, so stepwise multiple regression, that was there at the beginning. Circuit analysis, I don't know what parallax is, and it always has annoyed me how it was spelled, but that's how it's spelled. No consonant doubled. And then the Apple III titles, there's just a few of them. The business ones, Apple Writer 3. A lot of these actually came in big boxes. The Apple III things tended to come in big boxes. I think Script 3 may not have had a box. And I'm not sure about the Pascal utility library. I think that also didn't have a box, but the other ones had big boxes, even though they also had the sort of boring manual inside as well. I'll mention that, I guess. So I'm just going to blow through maybe I'll make the slide deck available so you can look at it later. But I just sort of out of interest, I put together the catalog pages for all of the individual things. So this is in the green ones, the sort of boring green ones are the fall 1980 ones, and I put them in basically sequential order. So at least in the order that they appeared in the fall 1980 catalog, and then beyond. So Geometry and Measurement, Drill and Practice, that one lasted forever. Galactic Wars was a game that was in several of the catalogs, but was gone by the last fall winter 82 catalog. So that's what the little X is supposed to mean. The Pascal animation package was also gone by then, and so on and so forth. Music Comp. The VT100 emulator left the catalog even earlier, and I've got a little picture there on the corner of like what this looks like. But you will notice they all look the same, so they are not very interesting. The only thing that really changes is the type on the disc label and the what it says on the front of the black and white manual inside. Always the same cover. Hand-holding basic, that one lasted through the entire run. So what you're seeing on this screen is the fall 1980 catalog in the upper left corner, and then the next two catalogs in the below it, and then the 1982 one on the right. So it lost space. It's only just a little part of a column now, but hand-holding basic made it through all the way to the last catalog there. P-sort, sorting algorithms, artist designer, the Pilot animation tools, Supermap, sort of map producer. This one made it all the way to the last catalog as well. Personal Finance Manager, again, everybody loved this one. Everybody had it. Good spell. So this one, diet analysis, again, I've got X's by the catalogs it was not in, right? So it wasn't in the first one, it wasn't in the last one. Plan 80, Bridge Tutor. Bridge Tutor came in two types, sort of a simple and a complex one. The world's greatest blackjack program. A very humble name. VisiCalc real estate templates. Here's a picture of the VisiCalc real estate templates. Do I have that? Maybe I don't. Well, somewhere I have a picture of it, and I did have it, and I probably had like one of the 5 that sold. And not only that, but it was missing pages in the manual. So I wonder if they all were. APM. This one sold for a lot. This one was very expensive, and it probably came with a manual that I do not have. I have only the folder and the discs, but or have. I don't remember. Anyway, so I'll just keep sort of running through these until I see something that's interesting. Here's the Utopia graphics tablet system. I mentioned this in a slide later, but I will mention it in that slide when I get to it. Circuit analysis, topographic mapping, senior analyst. There are a lot of these, right? Apple Writer 2, that's the big one. Everybody got that. Compact communications stuff, Script 2, the Wreck of the BSM Pandora. This one, it's basically a tabletop game that was converted to be assisted by a computer, and it's really hard to hide. It was hard to hunt this down. Speedreader, Moptown. The Learning Company published this later. Magic Spells also was published by the Learning Company later. Data Tree, Parallax. Here are the Apple III things. On this one, I put the so in the upper center and to the right are the ones that are in that third catalog, the Spring 1982 catalog, I guess it is. So the one with the red font is the one that was in the Apple III specific insert, and the one with the black font in the title is the one where it was the full catalog. Okay. Keep going here. Access 3, Business Graphics. Of course, Apple III Business Graphics sold well. Many people had that. Script 3. So here is the CTW stuff. I don't think I zoomed in on it, did I? No. But this was Apple collaborating with the Children's Television Workshop to do 4 games. They were Instant Zoo, Mix and Match, Spotlight, and Ernie's Quiz. And so they looked a little different from the special delivery software, and they were not marketed as special delivery software titles, but they use the same copy protections, and they have the same numbering scheme. As I mentioned, some of them I was able to, I had some of them that had never been unwrapped, so that was kind of neat. I was able to actually unwrap them and see, how they were set up. So this is sort of like a couple of photos of that happening for circuit analysis. So I could see while the disk was in the thing, it was upside down. It was facing out on the front cover. The sort of license agreement thing was folded in between the cover and the front. Anyway, that's whatever. It's kind of interesting to be able to see that stuff. So other thing maybe to mention here, the special delivery software titles made use of a copy protection scheme called DOS 3.3p that Apple sold to developers and used on most of these, maybe all of these special delivery software titles. If you look for 4AM's write-up of the crack of Ernie's Quiz, you will see a discussion of this, and it is elaborate. Also, in around, I think it was 2016, there were some internal memos and notes about the S-Safe project, which was basically Apple trying to decide how to deal with copy protection, particularly on the Apple III, and they were talking. They were talking about sort of the philosophy of it and that kind of thing. But it seems like this is also the same kind of project that out of which DOS 3.3 came, and by looking at those memos and notes and things like that, it appears probably that DOS 3.3. My understanding of what I'm reading there is that it's basically a Randy Wigginton creation. And anyway, I'm saying this, and I'm also thinking that it's near certain that someone out there listening to me say this knows more than I do about the history of DOS 3.3p. But I feel like I actually saw it in a price list somewhere, and I didn't take a note of it, and it's very annoying because I feel like it was actually sort of public knowledge that you could get it. But I've also seen it. I've seen it actually credited on. I think it was maybe Skyfox or something. There was some game in a folder that surprisingly actually also said DOS 3.3p copyright Apple computer. So it was not just their internal stuff. They did sell it to other people as well. Some of these are very hard to find. There are some SDS titles that I have not personally had my hands on. I have had my hands on many of them, but not all of them. The wreck of the BSM Pandora I finally got, and that was very hard to find. It was one of the ones that I'd been sort of hunting for the hardest, but there are some others: Parallax, Plan 80, Data Tree, Designer's Toolkit. I think I've never come across those. I have a compact disc that someone wrote over, so I don't actually have a compact disc. I have a decorative compact disc, I guess. They're sort of weird collector's items in a way, because almost all of them, maybe apart from the CTW stuff and the BSM Pandora, they're boring to look at. I mean, they are tan, boring folders. They all look the same. They're all black and white manuals inside. It takes a lot of willpower to want them, and they're so niche that their numbers are so small that like the numbers that got sold were so small that you really it's going to be a challenge to find somebody who bought it. It was interesting getting a hold of the BSM Pandora one, though, because it didn't actually look like what I was expecting. I'd seen photos of it, but I didn't quite understand its like dimensions. It's actually thinner. Oh, actually, I have it here. Maybe I can make myself big, but it's thin. So it looks sort of like an Apple box, but it's thin, and it's a slipcover for a boring SDS thing. So anyway, but some of these went on to be sold elsewhere too. Moptown and Magic Spells, they were published, I mentioned, by the Learning Company. Hand-Holding Basic went on to be published by Eduware, and I think it's actually also the same author, I believe, and it might be the same program as Hayden Spinnaker's How to Program an AppleSoft Basic later. I think Behavioral Engineering continued to sell the math strategy and spelling strategy titles later, even after SDS. Those were strange too. Those were it doesn't matter. They're all niche. Here's the thing about the Utopia graphics system. Everybody mentions this. The Utopia graphics tablet system was written by Todd Rundgren, and at this point, people nod knowingly, open their eyes wide, and say, "Yes, that Todd Rundgren," which I'm sure lands more effectively when speaking to people who knew Todd Rundgren from some other context ahead of time. But it turns out he's a music guy famous for doing music stuff, and he's not famous for being a programmer. And so it's cool, whatever. But cooler if you knew him in advance. So that was it. That's sort of like a swift overview of special delivery software thoughts that I had. So I will throw it back to me in Zoom. I think this is working. Basically, all I'm here to do is to say that I think because we're a little bit behind on the schedule, I will sort of skip the Q&A part, and there's a Discord channel. We can talk about that in there, and then move on to the next talk. So